Hi, everybody. Welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining us. Listen, when crap hits the fan, and if you haven't heard, crap is going to hit the fan, there are certain things that you absolutely should not do. Because listen, we're here to be able to prepare. And it's not simply just stockpiling food, even though that's part of it. It is literally adopting a lifestyle and mindset to be able to keep you and your family safe. That's what it's all about. We want to survive this and be safe through all the things that are coming. So I've put together nine things that you know what? You should not do. Do not do these things when crap hits the fan because it will put you and your family in jeopardy. Let's jump right into it. Number one, do not listen to gossip. Crap hasn't hit the fan yet, and we already have so much misinformation and so much disinformation. And it's not even just mainstream media, by the way. There's all kinds of chatter going everywhere where people are trying to put out their viewpoint, put out their input. And of course, a lot of it is skewed toward, whatever their beliefs are specifically, especially when it comes to political beliefs. Don't give in to this. We need to continuously focus on one thing and one thing only, keeping our family safe. So this person has to do this. This person has to do this. No, don't listen to either one of them. Do what you need to and get with the facts and be able to take care of you and your family. Now, when it comes to different types of channels and mainstream media, of course, they have agenda, and they do put out some good information sometimes. Both of them do, by the way. You just need to filter out opinions and look straight at what exactly needs to be done, and that's you attaining your goal. And of course, that goal is survival. Number two, do not become a victim. You cannot be an armchair expert when it comes to crap hitting the fan. You have to be able to take proactive courses now to be able to not be a victim. Self-defense, I always talk about martial arts, like Krav Maga is a great self-defense course. Learn how to carry different types of weapons and use the weapons too, because it's not simply just a matter of having one, but knowing how to actually handle it and be able to do whatever you need to when the time comes. You need to make sure that you continuously practice and drill and train. And I find that when it comes to the prepping community, that's probably the number one problem people have is they don't want to do the drill and training. They just want to stockpile stuff. You can't do that. You're going to become a victim. Because understand that when it comes to criminals, or, and crap hits the fan, somebody going after people, criminals never have an alternate plan. They always have an alternate victim. So when they look at you and they think you're going to be a victim, and suddenly now they go in your direction and you take care of themselves, they will simply say, you know what, alternate plan, let's head to here. No, they're simply just going to say, you know what, forget you, and they're going to go off to go after somebody else. I mean, I don't want that to happen either. So maybe if you are proficient in the weapons, you can protect other people as well. But you must be able to learn to protect you and your family and do that through a whole host of things to be able to take care of yourself. Do what you need to, take care of the situation, and move on and survive. Number three, do not ignore yourself. Besides practicing like martial arts or practicing with weapons, obviously, we need to be able to take care of ourselves so our health is at the maximum. Hopefully, you've already started some kind of, at least a workout routine. It doesn't have to be something incredibly strenuous. Going for walks, going for hikes, going for swims. Obviously, do whatever you can that's capable of as far as your body goes. You need to be able to make sure you're in shape, because understand that when that time comes, it's going to be very grueling, very energy dependent on to make sure you can take care of things. You're going to be in life and death situations. And the biggest thing is, let me fill in the blanks, stress is going to be your number one killer. Because don't think that because you're going to be sitting in your house just eating your corned beef hash, everything's going to be fine. There's going to be marauders. There's going to be threats of military. There's going to be fill in the blank. The list goes on and on. Not to mention you need to be able to out cutting wood or taking care of action, setting up security. The list obviously very much goes on and on in this situation. You have to be able to take yourself to the next level and fill in all those gaps that like right now we don't have to. I mean, maybe you have to cut wood sometimes for your wood stove to keep warm, but now we're going to be amplifying that 1,000 times. And the thing is, that's all on top of the stress of the current situation. And stress causes you to release cortisol. It's exceedingly bad for you, bad for your body, bad for your heart. It will wear you away. It'll make it so you completely are on edge. You're nervous all the time. Your stomach's in knots. Not to mention, you'll have a difficult time sleeping. So hopefully at least you have a community set up so that way you can have other people stand watch while you are sleeping, and that way you can have times to eat and relax and such, and then get right back to it again. And that takes us to number four, do not become a lone wolf. Because you cannot take care of everything yourself. If you really do think that you're going to be sitting in your house just eating your food and everything's going to be fine, you are sadly mistaken. There are truly, when it comes to crap hitting the fan, safety in numbers. You want to make sure that you can work together as a team. Not to mention that even if you are a jack of all trades, you are a master of none. You really need other people in other areas to be able to fill in those gaps, whatever their specialties or gifts are that they can work on to be able to put into the group. having a group is so important. And I know a lot of people are lone wolves. That's to each their own. You can go ahead and sit home and do that if you want to. But having a community is, in my opinion, probably should be your number one priority. And even more so, setting up your community now before that time comes is so essential. Here in Michigan, there's lots of communities around, and it's great. And you don't necessarily need to give away all your information to be able to connect with that community. You can put a flyer up in your local Pew Pew store, in a library, at a farm store. Continuously look at different places you could put flyers up and say, we're going to meet the first Sunday each month at such and such park or at the library. You don't have to give them your real name. You don't have to tell them what you have. You don't have to tell them anything about you and your family. And they'll probably have the same thing. Anonymity is always the biggest thing when it comes to these groups, and that's very important. But you will usually find a couple people that you can truly call friend and depend on. So start that process now, so that way you have your community, because crap is coming and you want to be able to have your community depend on each other. Do not bug out, or at least do not think that bugging out should be your first choice. It should be a last resort. Only if your life depends on it that you need to bug out. Think about this. At your home, you have food, you have shelter, you have clothing, and even more importantly, think about this, you have familiar surroundings. You know the layout of your property and your land, and even if you just have a small place in the city, you know better than that than anybody else. You know all the little fine-tuned intricacies of how everything works and the dynamics of your neighborhood. But understand, if you're at home and you look outside and you see some kind of stranger walking down the road, especially in crap hits the fan, that stranger is going to be an absolute threat. You're going to look at that person as being, you know what, you've never been here before. I don't know who you are. And therefore you may be here to take care of business. So obviously you're going to be hyper alert for looking at those strangers. But think about this, ready? You're that stranger. If you decide to bug out, sometimes you have to, by the way, your house is going to burn down, whatever. But if you bug out and you're now walking down that street, you are that stranger. You are the marauder. People don't know who you are, and they will violently protect their property against you. So make sure you don't become that refugee per se. Do what you can to stay in your place, to never bug out if possible. But again, if your life depends on it, if your house is about to burn down, or a few other things that could make you have to leave because your life depends on it, don't bug out unless you absolutely have to. Number 6, do not stand out in the crowd. Being a survivalist and mastering bushcraft is a great thing, but listen, there's a time that presents itself where you do not want to present yourself as a survivalist when it comes to being out in the crowd. That's the whole point of being a gray man. Gray man is not a particular outfit or particular clothes, although you'll find some clothes will work better than others. You want to make sure that whatever's happening in that specific area, how people dress and act, you dress and act just like the people in that area. You want to make sure you are as absolutely as inconspicuous as possible when it comes to whatever environment you find out you're in. In other words, don't go on the street walking in a ghillie suit and saying, you know what, look, I'm going undercover, you can't see me. Camo doesn't make you camouflaged. Now, I know camouflage is a statement, by the way. It's a fashion statement that people use, and that's okay. I'm not saying you can't wear camo, especially crap hits the fan. I'm sure other people wearing that or some kind of Carhartts or knockoff Carhartts. All that's fine. Just make sure you go along with what people have. Now, the thing is, when it comes to this, you need to make sure that when it comes out being in the crowd, you don't draw attention to yourself. But that also means you need to walk with confidence. This is such a huge thing, by the way. People often becomes victims because they are not confident. Because when people want to attack a victim, they usually have the mindset of, you know what, will that person to be easier to overtake? But, that person's kind of confident the way they walk over there. Again, they don't have alternate plans. They just look at alternate victims. This person over here, that's a much easier target. So now, make sure you go out, try not to be very conspicuous, but staying in the shadows is important. But also, it's one of those things where you have to look at the group of people wearing a hoodie, and it's really obviously become a fashion statement wearing a hoodie too. But depending on the situation, even just wearing a hoodie, because it is nice and warm and comfy. I love my hoodie, by the way. But there's times to wear it and times not to wear it. And if you are just some stranger people never seen before, and you have your hood up and your eyes are kind of cloaked and stuff underneath, that's not being confident. That is being what people perceive as being a threat. So understand that in those situations, the hoodie can turn you into a hoodlum, even though they're separate terms, they're kind of related. So make sure that you try to blend in with the people, make it look like you belong there, and not simply just trying to cower away from the rest of the group. Number 7, do not talk about your preps. And I know we're nice people. I'm a very nice person. I love people, and I want to talk about all these things so we can help each other out. But even on the channel specifically, or meeting people in person, I don't talk about preps. It's so important not to do that. No matter how nice the people are, no matter how close of a friend they are. I mean, if it's a super close friend, somebody you literally put your life into, and maybe they're preppers too, yeah, that's maybe the exception. Or maybe that family member, because understand, even family is not the person you want to tell as well, especially family, because family will come over and say, oh, look, you know what, you're prepping, I don't have to. When crap hits the fan, I'm coming to your house. You ever had people say that to you before? That's because you told them you're a prepper. You really need to keep that completely secret and private, unless, again, there is that one person who is a prepper just like you, and that way you can literally rattle off ideas with each other. So it doesn't matter if you have this family down the street. It's the nicest family in the world. In fact, the father is like the nicest guy you'll ever meet. He comes over sometimes and helps you fix your car. You're like, what great people they are, but they're not preppers. You have to understand that father has children, and when the time comes and they don't have any food, any father is going to become a violent person. And that violent person, I mean, he may come across at the beginning and saying, hey guys, can you lend me a couple cans of food? My family's starving. And hopefully you can try to do that kind of situation. Stick with me on that for just a second. But instead, he will literally turn violent. They'll turn violent. People, man, when people are hungry, but even worse, when they have children that are hungry, they have the viewpoint of, why do you have all that food, but I don't? I didn't prepare, but it doesn't matter. My family's starving, and you will give me that food. We have history to tell us that's exactly what happens. But when it comes to that father, that whole situation, make sure that you have a certain amount of preps aside for other people. Sometimes people even say have 10% extra for that situation. But even then, just say, listen, I'm almost out of food now. I don't have a whole lot either, but I love you and your family. So, I can give you a few cans of something, but that's almost all I have because I need it as well, but that's all I have for you. Then after that, let's talk, and maybe together we can find a way to find more food without them even knowing you have a bunch. But understand that they will become violent against you because you talked about your preps. Number 8, do not become rigid in your thinking. I did a whole video on this alone. You must learn to become adaptable. Even though you may have plans, I have a plan to do this when this happens. X happens, Y happens, I'm going to do Z. And therefore you head down that path. And that's great. You should have plans. But you also should have plan B plans and plan C plans as well. But then you also need to have a mindset of realizing that all those plans may get thrown out the window. And what happens is when people have plans and the plans get thrown out the window, that's when they start to panic and have problems. No, you need to be adaptable. And you need to adhere to one rule, that everything goes when it comes to the crap at the fan. You have to be very adaptable. You have to be in a situation in which you know that you're always going to have to change plans at a moment's notice and change plans very quickly. Always look for alternatives. Always look for different ways to do things, and always continuously realize that the fact in this situation is you need to become the person who is 100% adaptable, and there is nothing set in stone. And number 9, do not panic. And this is such a huge, huge thing. My videos hopefully portray someone who is level-headed. That's what I really try to do. Because when it comes to all the things even happening right now, and crap hasn't even hit the fan yet, you must keep a level head. As soon as you panic, as soon as there's anxiety, it changes your thought processes and makes it so you will not think logically and act appropriately. A lot of that comes from a part of your brain called the amygdaloid nucleus, or the amygdala as we simply just call it. And the amygdaloid nucleus works specifically with like rage and fear and dealing with situations like panic mode type stuff. And when that happens, it has a direct connection with your prefrontal cortex, which is your decision-making part of your brain. This is the part that says, you know what? I've drilled and trained for this. I'm simply going to take action in this direction. But you know what? If you panic, it kind of gets misfired in wiring and everything happens everywhere, and you will literally cave in, fall on the floor, go in the fetal position, or fill in the blank. You must keep a level head in all situations. And you know what? As preppers, crap hitting the fan, you are a leader for your community. You're a leader for the people around you, and you must keep a level head in all these situations. So that goes back to mainstream media. You have to be careful because mainstream media, they want to do everything to keep that fear and panic in people. So they'll do things like buy all the toilet paper out of the store so there isn't with the slightest crisis. You need to keep a level head in these situations and don't give in to that fear. It's going to cloud your mind. So there's 9 things for you. 9 do not things that you should be ready for when crap hits the fan. What other do not things would you put in the comments below? Make sure you do not do this, because again, it is all about you and me and our families and keeping safe and to be able to take care of action when the time comes, because unfortunately, I hate to say it, we're preparing for this because that time is going to come when crap's going to hit the fan. Thanks for watching.